Hello! Today is September 22nd, 2020, and today we're doing government and social. I almost forgot, and we just talked about it.
There's a lot of twos in today's date.
We're filming on a Friday, so it's weird. Everything feels like it's Bizarro World.
We might start filming on every Friday.
And the thing that happened Friday at 11 p.m. that we didn't cover, please don't comment and be like, how could you leave this out? That was so important. We'll get it next week.
We're not psychics, yeah.
I think John Oliver dealt with that a lot better because his show is last week tonight for exactly the same reason.
So, let's get right into it. We got some interesting government news. Of course, leading up to the old election. Government news more important than ever. And some other things that are happening in this country, although they seem to be toning down a little bit, or maybe I'm just out of the loop again. Are the riots? Where are we having riots right now, Chris? You keep up with this.
There's still protests going on. Like, I know there are some still happening in Louisville, but I think Louisville has to pay a settlement to the family of Breonna Taylor.
Which is ridiculous, because it's taxpayer money.
Just fire the cops. Charge the cops.
No, take it out of their pension.
No. There's a way better solution you guys are overlooking. Imagine how much the organs of those cops are worth. What was it, $12 million?
Maybe we could trade them to China for some laptops
or
something.
We could easily, the kidneys alone are worth like $500,000, right?
I would think.
I don't know what the going rate is for organs right now, right?
These are probably healthy guys, physical fit, active. Yeah. That's the solution.
The level 1 modest proposal. It's not quite so modest.
And I'm not kidding at all. So the protests keep happening, but hopefully not as many burning buildings and cars lately. I think it has toned down a little bit, leading up to November 4th. But if you did burn a car and you're sitting at home and you got the smug grin on your face and you're like, I burned a car and I got away with it. Not so fast.
Not so fast. Apple gave the FBI access to the iCloud account of a protester accused of setting police cars on fire. What did they find? A picture of a Molotov cocktail recipe. Green glass. Yeah, that's what I was building to. Yeah, and then it's like, oh no. Also, lots of communication records where the guy was getting other people involved. Like, yeah, we need to do something about this.
So,
I get that people are upset, but this is maybe not the best use of directing your energy.
But it is also terrifying because we remember Apple. It's weird because Apple drew a line in a child porn case. But when it came to burning police cars, they were like, no problem. Here it is. You want more of it?
I saw that argument in there, and I think that it's a little different. So I think that Apple gave iCloud access to all of the people in the shooter and everything. It was just they didn't want to decrypt whatever was actually on the phone because that was the line to cross.
Which also points out how stupid do you have to be to put your propaganda and criminal activity in the cloud?
Yeah.
Come on. That's someone who doesn't understand what the cloud is.
So I think if this guy had pictures of his Molotov cocktails on his phone, they would have been SOL. But that wasn't what the case was here.
Pro rider tip. Actually, don't take your phone. That's such a bad idea.
That's a real tip. Don't take your phone.
I know it's convenient.
This is one of those stories that's going to be like, there's an update to it that happens at like 5 p.m. on a Friday because Customs and Border Patrol is trying to save face.
I think it's the opposite because of the comments they made. I think this is like old salty bureaucrats who will not admit they were wrong no matter what. They'll let it go through the entire process.
See, this is a rare level 1 situation. I actually have a much darker view of this. Because Apple had been harassing Customs and Border Protection about counterfeit, quote unquote counterfeit batteries and repair parts, like Louis Rossman's videos where he's getting all the iPhone repair stuff. And that stuff was not actually fake Apple stuff in 99 out of 100 cases. It was literally stuff where he had mailed parts to be repaired that were repaired overseas and sent back. And so that's definitely a ship of Theseus problem. But Apple was complaining, saying, no, look, this Apple logo on this thing, we didn't send it. And it's like, well, isn't it possible that somebody sent that and then they sent it back repaired? So Apple's like, no. And so I think we're going to find there's going to be a smoking gun that hasn't come out yet, that Apple was leaning on Customs and Border Protection to do this, and they're more than happy to oblige.
Either way, that's pretty dark. But we're talking about it, and we haven't read the headline.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Customs and
right.
Border Protection seized a shipment of OnePlus Buds thinking they were counterfeit Apple AirPods. And so they tweeted pictures. They were like, look, we intercepted about $400,000 worth of fake products.
They
and they're not.
They are remarkably similar.
They're remarkably similar.
You have to say that.
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be up to a court of law and not some Customs and Border Protection lackey.
Well, see, but that's what I'm talking about because so here's a real box. Here's the box that they seized. Looks pretty similar.
Wait, is it? No. Those are all OnePlus boxes. The Apple AirPods box is not red.
No,
Yeah,
that's what
they
I'm
don't
saying.
use
Like,
color.
this is what they
Very
considered.
much
And then there was like, oh, no, here's one we got from a store. It's the same thing.
But they're OnePlus Buds, not Apple. No, none of those pictures are AirPods.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So,
Krista,
OnePlus USA responded in this tweet and it said, "Hey, give those back," with an upside down smiley face.
what can you do? So, the quote here, it was something about, They basically said, unrelated to the images of language in a box, companies not have to put an Apple word mark or design on their product to violate these trademarks, blah, blah, blah. You can appeal. So basically they were like, we're not going to admit that we're just stupid and we pulled those boxes because we don't know the difference. You're going to have to go through the process.
I can't wait for Customs and Border Protection to start seizing all black rectangular phones. Like, this phone is basically entirely a screen. That's ripping off Apple's 2009 iPhone design. Seized.
You know, I think we can rest easy. Considering how inept these people are, we can be confident that we've never given them overwhelming power or anything like that. We haven't given them jurisdiction over, 2/3 of the country?
Yeah, there's that map where there's just like a tiny little area in rural Kansas. It's like, this is the area where you're not under border protection.
So, yeah. Yay. And poor OnePlus. But OnePlus, I think, could benefit from this because, first of all, it gets their name out there. And people look at this and they're like, wow, those are a lot like AirPods. I could get those for cheap and people would think I've got AirPods.
Those have a really cool feature that AirPods don't, which is the little touch thing. There's like a little touch pad on the side of the ear pod so you can, have some touch controls.
Nice.
So it looks like you're digging in your ear when you're just changing the phone.
Yeah, that's great.
Or a gnat lands on it and cranks it up to max volume. So yeah, the big, trade war stuff, the socio-political scene, geopolitics it's pretty hot. It's spicy right now. And here in the old US of A, especially now, we're not really manufacturing a lot of stuff. And that could be concerning considering, everything gets built in a country that's probably going to be our enemy for pretty soon and for a long time. So what do we do? Well, there is one organization that has come up with a number of what it will take to bootstrap the old U.S. chip making.
The chip industry wants $50 billion to keep manufacturing in the U.S. That's what they think it's going to take in subsidies. There's a graph in here that's super disturbing that shows from the 1990s until now, the U.S.'s decline in microprocessor manufacturing. It's a little disturbing. I think $50 billion is probably a lowball number, all things considered, because
that doesn't build a lot of fabs.
No. I mean, look how much money. Well, I mean, like, we've got the numbers for TSMC and how much money they spent on some of their foundry buildup just to get from 16 nanometer, 16 nanometer / 22 nanometer to 7 nanometer, and it was a staggering amount of money.
I don't think we can swing that payment because if we were going to do that, we would have to stop occupying like 5 countries. I don't know if we can do that. The federal government does try to replace any lost monies, though, and they do it in a lot of surprising and interesting. Well, that's the same thing. Terrible ways. That's what I'm getting at there. They're criminals. They steal from us. And one of the ways that is maybe the most disgusting is that they're like, okay, here's a set of laws. You must adhere to these, or we will take your freedom and or your possessions. And you're like, all right, give me a list of those laws. I'm like, sure, no problem. It's going to be 10 cents a page.
Bill to tear down federal court's paywall gains momentum in Congress. Federal courts charge 10 cents per page for many documents online. This hasn't really changed much from when it was paper documents and somebody said, hey, wait a minute, having a server on the internet is way cheaper than a vast system of mailing and distributing paper documents. Why are we charging 10 cents a page?
Now, it's weird how they're going to go about this because they didn't say, okay, this is something that's terrible. We can't do this to the people. We'll just give it to you because it basically costs us nothing. They're saying, all right, how are we going to make up this money? So they're going to make up the money. Now, one part I kind of like, there are organizations who collect all this data and then like use it to resell it in various ways. They're going to hit them with higher fines. I'm okay with that. You know, it's a business model. You pay for it. They're also raising the price it takes to file a lawsuit to help offset these costs. Although we do have frivolous lawsuit problems in this country.
I don't think it'll stop the people that are interested in frivolous lawsuits in the first place.
Not.
Yeah, not at all.
It's probably one of those things that just affects the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, the poor people who may actually have legitimate grievances.
It's like my wealthy neighbor in the wealthy subdivision that backs up to my crappy trailer has taken 10 feet of my yard. What can I do? Nothing.
Or what if you had an employer that you knew was spying on your social media in order to fight unionization and you needed to file a lawsuit?
Oh, no.
Especially if you were a delivery driver who probably doesn't make a lot of money because this company is known to lowball a little bit.
Oh, look at that. Business Insider has just that story. 2 U.S. senators just demanded that Amazon stop spying on its workers via social media after news surfaced that the tech giant was monitoring drivers' plans to protest or strike. Not a good look for Amazon. Not a good look for Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, and
He doesn't care.
they have some really good evidence that this was happening. There is a quote in here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Their response to this was just like, it's one of those responses. I
am the law.
Here we go. It's really long, but it's really long and it says nothing.
We have a variety of ways to gather driver feedback, and we have teams who work every day to ensure we're advocating to improve the driver experience, particularly through hearing from drivers directly. Upon being notified, we discovered that one group within our delivery team was aggregating information from closed groups. Now, while they were trying to support the drivers, that approach doesn't meet our standards, and they are no longer doing this, and we have other ways for drivers to give us their feedback.
So, spying on your private social media and trolling around and trying to find any unionization talk was supporting the drivers and seeking their feedback.
You know what would be a good way to support the drivers? Cut each and every one of them $100,000 check, which if Jeff Bezos did personally did that for every single Amazon employee that they have right now, he would be as wealthy as he was before the pandemic started. Pandemic.
You can say pandemic. I don't think YouTube will strike that. But thank goodness these senators wrote a strongly worded letter.
I mean, think about how crazy that is. Like how much more wealthy he is now than before this whole thing started. That you could just give every employee $100,000.
So yeah, pro Amazon driver tip: don't do your unionization talk on social media because they're not going to stop. They say they're going to stop. They're not going to stop.
If they're doing that, you know, they're probably into the Alexa as well. It's like,
you go first.
No, it's just like, how crazy is it that Alexa is, you know, it's like, Alexa doesn't think you should unionize. What was that?
Well, I'm just so glad the senators wrote that letter, you know. Maybe they'll write another one and then, you know, something really will get done.
Wasn't that one of the plots of one of like the really good Hitchcock movies was, the antagonist was it was Vincent Price. It was one of the old Vincent Price movies where he was trying to convince somebody that they were seeing a skeleton walking around and blah 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 because they wanted them to commit suicide. It's like we need a new version of that story with Alexa.
Why not just cut the brakes on the vans? I mean, it's so much easier. I guess you lose packages that way. So yeah, it's not a good situation, but you always have to say it. I just got an Amazon delivery. I'm sorry.
What'd you order?
It's a filter. It's not an exciting Amazon delivery, but I needed it.
I gotta get Mom's cat a water fountain because it doesn't want to drink water, and it really needs to drink more water because it throws up a lot.
Does that cause you to throw up a lot?
It's I think so because I don't know.
My vet told me, it's cat talk. My vet told me if some cats are like low drinkers, And you just have to feed them wet food to try and get the fluid in them.
The
that
water
way.
content up.
It seems like when the cat does drink more, it seems like it's happier and healthier. And when it's
Also, remember we did a story about the, maybe we didn't do a story, but I read about it somewhere where old people with dementia get the same way. So they make these candies, and they look like candies, and they're just a tiny bit sweet, but they're just filled with water. And they just give them a big box of them every day, and they sit and eat their water.
I need to order some of those because we're having a problem with Mom's blood sugar and Reese's Pieces.
Give her and the cat both water candies. And speaking of dementia, I didn't even plan that. The election's ramping up, and one thing we talk about a lot here is voter databases. You have no idea how much information is about you in that voter database, and they treat them like baseball cards.
They really do.
On Capitol Hill. It's one of the ways that you talk about going across the aisle. One of the things that flies across the aisle is voter registration databases, because it's like, hey, we're playing a game, but we can only help each other by getting more people out to the polls. They really do want you to vote. Well, Joe Biden came up with an app, and his app was kind of it's a really insidious thing. You put in your contact list, and it would go and find people who maybe didn't vote last year, because they know that. And it'd be like, hey, maybe you should give them a call. Which, if any of my family did this, I'd never speak to them again. But there was a bigger issue.
A bug in Joe Biden's campaign app gave anyone access to millions of voter files. Now, TechCrunch has used Joe Biden's campaign app. It really wasn't Joe Biden's campaign app. It was like the third party twice removed of some think tank that was actually funding this. And this app was just built with baling wire and duct tape. It was a very thinly veiled JSON interface to the voter file. And so when you would debug, you could just, set up a proxy between your phone and something else, and you could actually see all of the voter data in the raw file in the response, even though it wasn't displayed in the application. So if you wanted to get somebody's, 10-year voter history, you could add their name to your contact list in your phone and then look at the result from the application, from the API, and have all of that history, even though it wasn't displayed in the application.
Ouch. I imagine you could probably scrape that too.
Yeah.
You could just figure out what the API call was passing.
Yeah, technically that would be classified as a data breach, and they would have to notify all the people that were in the breach.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Yeah, no problem. Let's get in the time machine and go back to 2018. And one of the hottest stories in 2018 was the first ever death by robot car. It made big waves. I don't know if you remember it. I certainly do.
I do.
And there was an extra wrinkle to that story in that there was a human being in the car. Now, they were not driving the car.
But they were supposed to...
Safety.
Yeah.
They were the last line of defense between the car and the corpse.
And they were literally in the driver's seat of the car.
Yes. But they were not, they weren't looking at the road, unfortunately, it seems. They were watching The Voice. Is that still in the air?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Maybe it is.
It's trash TV. It's definitely still in the air.
The Voice killed a woman. Anyway, it's taken years, and this is another one of the situations where this person was probably like, oh, I got away with that. But wait.
Safety driver in Safety driver in fatal Arizona Uber self-driving car crash charged with homicide. Finally, it took 2 years. The trial set for February of 2021. This was in Vegas.
They've also revealed that the emergency braking system was removed because it was overactive, and some other safeguards were removed, and they were like, you know what? If we're going to remove all these, we need to put a person in this car. But that didn't work. You have to be careful about what you put on social media. Obviously, no rioting, no unionizing, no crime, and add this one to the list.
Tony Abbott hacked after posting boarding pass on Instagram. He was going on holiday or something, and he posted something to Instagram, and a security researcher thought to himself, well, actually his friend prompted him, was like, hey, I wonder if I could do anything with this. And it turns out, yes, in fact he could. He was able to log into the airline website, and then the airline website, much like the voter file thing, you could see a lot more under the hood than what was actually displayed on the webpage. The would-be hacker was able to eventually get his phone number, and then he wrote this really just overly long and elaborate blog post about getting a hold of him without calling him, even though he had his phone number, because that would be weird. And just letting him know. And so the blog post ends in him having a conversation, the guy that found the info having a conversation with Tony Abbott, who ultimately did have to get a new passport number because, who else has that information?
Could have been a lot funnier if he'd done some other stuff, but he'd probably be in jail. What did it take, like a year?
It took like a year to get approval.
Yeah, to get to the man. He had to go through this crazy chain of, I think he didn't even, like, he got his personal assistant or something.
Yeah.
Before, and they were like, oh, this is real.
Yeah. It's like, here's the last digit of the phone number. Ah.
Meanwhile, remember, again, we talked about this last week. Before all of the darkness, the dark cloud settled over 2020, the big argument was 5G. And now 5G is kind of here, but it sucks. And it has low coverage because they've given up on it. But it seems that the fight about 5G still exists.
Macron slams anti-5G proponents as Amish, causing uproar in France. This might be the first time that I've actually agreed with the French president Macron. I don't know. I'm sure I'm not saying his name correctly. I'm sorry.
It's Macron.
I don't know. But he's literally like, 5G, like, it doesn't cause any of the bad things that you people say it does. We're going to roll it out in rural areas because it's going to help us. And one of the people commented was like, I don't think it's fair that he's shutting down the debates on this. And I was thinking, I don't think it's fair that he's shutting down the debates on things like indoor plumbing. Who needs running water and a flushable toilet inside? I think we should all have to go outside to poop in holes because that's more ecologically friendly.
I think...
It's not, though.
As someone who poops in holes, right, Krista?
As someone who has indeed dug a hole and pooped in it, you have to pack that. You don't pack the shit out. You do pack the TP out.
But I think a lot of the people were outraged more about the use of Amish as a pejorative.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Which, it's an accurate description.
Yeah,
you know what?
Are Amish people upset about that? I wouldn't think they would be.
I bet they're anti-5G. I'd bet a large sum, considering the whole electricity thing.
He talked about oil lamps. I mean, I get that. Is like, life is really, seems like it's harder than it should be. Like, we as a species would have failed before now if life before now was harder than this. But it's like, I think life before now was harder than this by a lot. And a lot of people did not make it.
Was that the worst thing that I was driving here today and I was thinking, man, what if like 50% of these people weren't here? So much smoother.
You never include yourself in the 50% that disappears, though.
Hey, I'll take the chance. Flip a coin. Yeah. This story is interesting, not so much because of what the story is about, but because of the DART program, which somehow I missed in all of my news collecting. Apparently, this was announced in August, and it's crazy, and I can't wait for it. But we do have to wait for it till 2021, and this program even longer.
European Space Agency awards a $153 million contract for its first planetary defense mission. I think TechCrunch, we criticized TechCrunch for having the clickbaity headlines. They missed a great one here. They really did. It would have been something like $153 million to protect planet Earth with the planetary defense mission, or like killer asteroid. The only thing that stands in the way between a killer asteroid is the European Space Agency and its $153 million protection contract.
But they're not really going to protect us. See, what's going to happen is the DART program, which is even cooler, that's NASA, because USA is number one. And DART stands for Dual Asteroid something redirection. So what we're going to do, double asteroid redirect test. So there's these two asteroids. And we're going to just shoot some rockets at them and be like, let's see if we can move these suckers around. Just in case one is ever coming at us, we got to Armageddon it. But instead of blowing it up, we're trying to redirect it.
Yeah, because if we blow it up, the same, as we learned from Star Trek, all of that mass is still on a trajectory toward Earth, and it's still going to enter the atmosphere. All we're doing is increasing the surface area. Maybe that'll help it burn up. Maybe not if it's a dense asteroid.
Now, what the Euros are going to do is they're going to launch this a bunch of smaller satellites to investigate and see how the DART did. But it's going to take 2 years for that to happen. So I'm on the edge of my seat, but how long can I stay there? Realistically. Also, what if they mess it up and they just point them straight at Earth?
Whoops.
The filter. That's the filter.
The great filter lies ahead of us.
Net neutrality is hotly debated still, even though we don't have it, but Europe does have it, at least a version of it. And there's been some argument about the whole hey, can AT&T give you free HBO? Is that net neutrality? And I think it's kind of against the spirit that net neutrality was designed for. It's kind of one of the exact things. And the courts seem to agree.
Europe's top court says net neutrality rules bar 0 rating, and that's what we mean when we say 0 rating. So it said that effectively, if Netflix and HBO and all these other people can pay your ISP, then that means the competing services will have a harder time. I mean, I never understood that argument. There are some people, even in our comments, that are like, Netflix uses a lot of bandwidth, they should pay for that. And it's like, you're paying for that as a customer. What are you buying as a customer? Like, do you not understand that? Like, that's how data works. But okay. So Europe agreed. Somebody with a clue in Europe was like...
But it took a lot of appeals and went all the way up.
Yeah. Because, what a mess. What a terrible mess. But this is good. This is actually good that somebody with a clue has looked at this in Europe and said, hey, wait a minute.
We also talked about several different secure phone companies. I don't remember the name of the one. Was it Canadian? They did a lot of Mexican drug cartel business.
Oh, and yeah, we talked about this, yeah.
They actually, they got the name in here somewhere, but I've forgotten it.
EncroChat.
No, that's this one. The other one was in North America. EncroChat was the European one. Anyway, so the idea is you get a phone, like they take an existing phone, they strip out all the stuff that could identify you. The GPS, the camera, all the nonsense. And then they run dual operating systems, and they encrypt all of the traffic going in and out of those things. And the guy that was doing it here, I can't remember if he was in Canada. I think he was in Canada. He got busted because they said that he was aiding and abetting.
Yeah.
Because he was like marketing directly to the cartels, and he was doing some other stuff.
They picked him up at a bar because he was just bragging at a bar. Like, oh, yeah, you want one of these? It's like, you could totally child traffic all you want. They're like, oh, that's interesting.
But the Euros took a different approach because they actually managed to crack the network. And now we find out the scope of what they did.
European police malware could harvest GPS messages, passwords, and more. So they cracked the network and then installed malware on literally every phone on the network. And apparently nobody noticed, or this was in the last days. So they hoovered up a huge amount of information. The much more interesting thing in this data set is that corrupt cops were feeding the criminals information. They also said that there is a huge amount of evidence to support there were legit users on this network. There were people that were privacy oriented and privacy focused that weren't doing anything illegal that had bought these phones.
And they got the malware too. Everybody got it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the darkness of the current situation is by seeking privacy, you stand out more.
Yeah.
That should not be the case. Shouldn't be able to zero rate privacy.
Now, they did get some, the other end of the spectrum was in there, too. There were a couple of assassins they caught who had, lined up some kills on the old EncroChat. So, probably for the best that they're not circulating anymore. It's a dark situation. And speaking of tracking and tracking everybody indiscriminately, you know who else does that and isn't going to jail for it? Google.
Google faces a $3 billion lawsuit over the use of children's data. This is in Bloomberg. I didn't get a chance to read the Bloomberg version of this article, but basically this is just more of the same. Things like YouTube and YouTube Kids, and there are some specific products that Google has that are marketed toward children, but it doesn't seem like it's possible for Google to do what it's doing to just even stand up the product and be compliant with European law. And so this lawsuit basically says, hey, you've had time to become compliant. There's no way that you are. We're going to, do a lawsuit and do discovery and figure out exactly how you're deficient. But for me, the lawsuit and some of the stuff they claimed open up a whole lot of doors. Like the Windows, the operating system collects a lot of telemetry as well. It's like if you have kids using Chromebooks, which is part of what this is, and you have kids using Windows, you're gonna have Windows doesn't even ask you how old you are, and it's collecting data immediately. So it seems like Microsoft's gonna have a huge liability here as well, maybe more than Google.
There's only one solution here, and I've been saying it all along. We have to keep children off the internet and out of public immediately. We did a story last week about Belarus. They're having a little bit of an issue after their election. Some people think that there was maybe a little foul play involved. In fact, they're quite sure of it. And when I say some people, I mean like
Basically everybody.
most of the population.
Yeah, literally everyone.
So they took the streets, and the president said, you know what, these this filthy swine, they're using the social media against me. Turn it off. And they used a special tool, which now we learn more about this story unfolding.
Francisco backed Sandvine and Nixes their Belarus deal, citing abuse. So this is just like the statement from Amazon. It's like, we had no ideas our tools would be used this way. It's like we sold them the Saw-O-Matic 5000, and they've been feeding journalists to the Saw-O-Matic 5000. We had no idea. We thought it was only super criminals.
Last week, the statement was, it's like, listen, we don't make decisions about what's right and what's wrong. We just sell this product, and it's up to them how they use it. Clearly, a lot of backlash.
Clearly, a lot of their workforce was like, we're out.
Probably some threats. And so this week, they're like, oh. Now, they did sort of cover their asses a little bit by saying that we haven't changed our mind about the whole policy thing, but we have detected that they have used our software in a way that is against the terms of agreement. So we're going to terminate the contract.
That reeks of more BS than the thing they were saying last week.
Yeah, well, obviously.
I am HO.
But at least the Belarusians might get a little internet back. We'll see. And China is still mad.
This week's TikTok update is brought to you by Lysol.
Still mad. Well, actually, we have the big TikTok update will be in the business section.
Oh, okay.
Because it's the big curveball. Microsoft's out. But, China, still not happy about it.
China says TikTok coercive possession shows U.S. bullying. It's like, this is against the Western ideals. What are you doing? I don't understand.
These Western ideals that we seek to destroy with every decision. This is a country that will not let most Western software across the border, even digitally. So, they're upset about it. It is probably true what they're saying. It's just that they do it too.
Yeah.
So they're not wrong.
It's not necessarily even that TikTok is, a tool of their spy agency in the same way that, maybe Pokemon Go is a tool of our spy agency, or at least the data set. I mean, I think Pokemon Go is has the potential to be far more insidious than TikTok. That could be a good video all on its own. Like, how could you weaponize TikTok versus how could you weaponize Pokemon Go? Like, imagine Pokemon Go is like, you've got an operation going on between two spies, and your spy needs some subterfuge. What if you just put, like, the really rare Pokemon in that area, so, like, there's a huge crowd of people that are all, like, super concerned with their phones? It would be the perfect smokescreen for your agent doing an operation in that area.
Or just collecting everybody's location data.
It might have been in 2018. When was it hot?
That was like 2018.
I wonder what their numbers are like during the pandemic.
It has the potential to be much better because people would just be out, isolating on their phones.
Yeah, any reason to be outside. Yeah.
So moving on to social media, this is perhaps one of the reasons that Google is facing those mammoth fines in the UK. That fine, by the way, who is the settlement going to go to? It's all the children of Great Britain. If they win, they expect it to hash out to between $100 and $400 per child.
Wow,
that's not too bad. Although, if it's $3 billion, was it $30 billion or $3 billion?
$3 billion.
Does that math work out? How much are the lawyers taking?
Probably
70%.
None at all. They're just going to give it all to the kids. They would never take that money from children.
But one of the things that it can do to your poor child is take them down rabbit holes of what people call radicalization.
YouTube's recommendation system is criticized as harmful. Mozilla wants to research it. Maker Firefox is soliciting help from YouTube users in an attempt to find problematic patterns. It's like, hey kid, do you like the Berenstain Bears? The Berenstain Bears would like you to believe in Mother Russia or Stalin.
Al-Qaeda.
I'm more frustrated with YouTube's recommendation system recommending me the same stuff over and over. I'm like, I've watched this.
They're bad about that. But they do often find things that I'm interested in that I would never think I'm interested in. Like the guy who cleans out like the waterways and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's like, why is this satisfying?
How did you know?
Problematic patterns of water removal.
So I guess you install an extension, and if you find yourself spiraling down into a rabbit hole, you click something, it's like, oh, Mozilla, they got me. And then Mozilla will go and sort of try to figure out what they're doing.
You wake up 3 hours later and it's just What? Where am I? What's going on?
You've watched 6 hours of sourdough videos.
Everybody's
Have you made bread
making
yet?
No.
everybody's making fun of that now. Like all the late night and stand up guys are like, check it out, I've got my sourdough starter, and they all hold it up. And it's just like, oh, I guess that's passe now.
Oh yeah, that was early pandemic.
That was really pandemic, yeah.
It's all about
Now it's all
organic
about
gardening.
gardening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's harvest season. What's the fall item going to be?
I need to plant. I was gonna try to plant garlic and onion, but I haven't done that yet, and I need to because it's getting cool now.
You know what? I just realized what the fall one's going to be. It's going to be Molotov cocktails.
We're going into flu season, and a Molotov cocktail is, no better way to ward off the flu than the warmth of glowing embers of literally everything around
Gas
you.
fumes. Really clean out your lungs.
Did you see? This is some other 2020 doomsday news, but did you see we're actually we've reached the end of the list of hurricanes, and now we're having to go into Greek letters.
Oh, nice.
We can't name anymore. We don't have any more names, so they're like, well, this next one is just going to be Alpha, I guess.
If we make it to Hurricane Omega, that's it. It's all over.
Let's end. I hope that doesn't happen.
I kind of hope it does. So, yeah, and speaking of, misinformation on social media is one of the hottest topics right now. It seems like people just can't not consume it and get divided by it. We are a divided country, to be sure. Now, here in the U.S., probably one of the biggest critiques that you can make of our country is the two-party system. But perhaps when you have many smaller systems, it's even more dangerous, as we can see in Ethiopia.
Hate speech on Facebook is pushing Ethiopia dangerously close to a genocide. Ethnic violence set off by the assassination of a popular singer has been supercharged by hate speech and the indictments shared widely on the platform. So I kind of thought this was clickbait, like just Vice clickbait nonsense. But this is kind of, you should read this. There's a lot of nuance here because, cultural differences and things like that. I would wager that not a lot of people in Ethiopia are watching the Level 1 news. But in a lot of ways, there's a lot of parallels to the things that Facebook has been accused of here as well, because a lot of people get sucked into something and it's like, you're right, because A, then B. And it's like correlation is not causation. That's not actually a thing. And it is actually leading people to take up arms against their fellow man in Ethiopia. But here, you can whip people into a frenzy over really dumb stuff too.
Our people are taking up arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know those people who were shot in the street last month? So
You know how you can find ammo anywhere?
Yesterday, the day before.
Not that different. It's just that they are maybe they weren't quite eased into it. They're not the boiled frog.
Yeah.
The water was at a rolling boil before they were thrown into it in terms of social media, and so they elected a leader. What was the name of the Oromo? Is that the name of the ethnic minority? Yeah, the Oromo. And that's it's a really small group, but now they're the leader. And they're like, yeah, it's our time to shine. But he was like, you know what? I'm going to accept all peoples in my presidency. And they're like, well, how dare you? And so then this other singer was also a Oromo, and he gets killed. And that just kind of lit the keg. I'm sure there's a lot more nuance to it than even Vice was able to suss out. But the point is, lynchings and beheadings have started to happen. I don't know if we can blame...
Which only leads to more lynchings and beheadings.
I don't know if we can blame social media entirely for that. I think that's just the inherent evil of humanity. But it does help. It lubricates the evil of humanity. Social media is an evil lubricant. You can quote me on that. And speaking of social media doing terrible things, we have another person who has defected from Facebook and is telling a lot of terrible, terrible stories.
I'm going to read the headline out of order because I think it is better in the wrong order. But it's the dude says, I have blood on my hands. A whistleblower says Facebook ignored global political manipulation. I've found multiple blatant attempts by foreign national governments to abuse our platform on vast scales to mislead their own citizenry and cause international news on multiple occasions. I have personally made decisions that affected national presidents without oversight and taken action to enforce against so many prominent politicians globally that I've lost count.
And that's maybe one of the worst things about social media is we talk about misinformation, yeah, but I think worse than misinformation being available is some random person deciding whether it's true or not. And obviously getting it wrong sometimes, and that having huge consequences. Now, people, sometimes when you let people make their own decisions, they will behead somebody. I don't know how we fix that, but people must be given the opportunity to behead.
They need to regret the beheading. If they regret the beheading, they've grown as a person.
And we can cycle them right back into society. So Facebook has some internal problems. This is not really an isolated story. A lot of the people who work at Facebook are suddenly like, oh, wow, we might be the Death Star. And I'm a big part of it. And I don't feel comfortable all of a sudden. And Facebook's got all these internal communication tools, and it seems like a lot of this sort of rhetoric is popping up. So what do you do if you're Zuckerberg?
Facebook issues new rules on internal employee communications. We should read some of them because they're sort of like kind of dark. They had a couple.
Are they quoted in here?
There's like the bullet list at the top, maybe. Yeah. All employees feel supported at work, especially the company's black community. They will also be more specific about which parts of workplace can be used to discuss social and political issues. So somewhere in there, I think it was talking about how, like that data scientist we were just talking about 2 stories ago, there's a lot of that kind of discussion happening internally that Facebook is monitoring, and it's unsettling for them. It's like, no, we just need to talk about happy things at work. We don't need to be, talking about how, oh, we accidentally caught this thing, and oh, we escalated it, and oh, nothing happened. We shouldn't do that.
This change would be so that employees do not have to confront social issues during their day-to-day work.
Well, I think a lot of it is also because, there's this whole trend now where it's like people just stop you in the street and they're like, say Black Lives Matter, say it. And if you don't, violence occurs. So I can totally see that. Like, if you post a message like this if you think Black Lives Matter. And then they figure out who didn't like it. And there's a big ordeal. And so saying, please, we're here to manipulate people, not talk about politics.
Womp womp.
The advertising engine does not benefit from this. Stop. But I definitely agree. I don't want to hear that if I'm at work. It's like, okay, I have to be here. I don't want to participate in your little cosplays. You're LARPing, keep that in the streets, not here at work. Twitter has a brand new user this week, and a controversial one, but now she's gone.
This is from Newsweek. I was kind of surprised. Twitter suspends account of Chinese virologist who claimed that the thing was made in a lab. And so she was also on like Tucker Carlson's thing on Fox News. And it's kind of odd that a lot of platforms have silenced this person, but the stuff that has been presented so far doesn't seem to be credible scientifically. So
I tried to read the paper. I couldn't.
I don't think I probably made it about as far as you did, and there's nothing really actionable in it.
It seemed like a lot of the stuff from what I was able to make out, and there's some like biological word soup in there that I'm going to go ahead and admit, I'm not on that level when it comes to vaccine biology and virology, but it seemed like, hey, based on these factors, this could totally be man-made. But she promised a smoking gun.
Yeah, that hasn't materialized.
And maybe it does, and we don't understand it. And I am totally open to the idea that she is being silenced because it doesn't fit the narrative. The biggest thing that worries me here is that when it comes to the media, Trump is never allowed to be right. And Trump made this same statement very early on, based on nothing, of course.
Did you see in this article that it says her and her colleagues are also affiliated with the Rule of Law Society, a group founded by Steve Bannon? Like, isn't that kind of maybe a red flag?
That is a red flag.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of
red flags.
Differently colored flags going on here.
But I love how, if you're just, it's like, you wake up one morning and it's like, da, 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 I'm an ordinary citizen of the United States of America. I want to have my say in how things run by voting. You have to have a PhD in being a citizen in order to actually intelligently make sense of things, because this is insane. Like this should be a very easy to figure out thing, and not, it's on the level of like indoor plumbing.
But science is politicized at this point.
So indoor plumbing.
It always has been. It always has been.
But you can't, because you're going to have equal credentials on both sides of the argument screaming at you that the other side is evil and they don't know what they're talking about.
Who would want to poop in their house? You need to go poop in the street. That's crazy.
And all of these people too, like, they're all just chasing money. Like, money makes it terrible in science as well, because you're constantly needing funding for your lab. So it's like, well, if this person will pay me to give them this result, that's what I'll do.
And she might be chasing citizenship.
Yeah. Or asylum or something.
She can never go back to China. I feel bad for her family. And their kidneys. But that was not Twitter's greatest loss this week. Far beyond that was what was the hashtag?
I don't think Kanye's malicious. I just think Kanye's Kanye.
I think he's a little bit maybe mentally ill.
Free Ye. No, he has a documented. He's bipolar.
Yeah, like I think he needs to learn some like coping mechanisms.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Kanye was kicked off of Twitter for 12 hours for violating its rules. Also in Newsweek.
He posted a phone number. You're not supposed to do that.
He also posted, so I happened to be looking at the trending tab when all this started happening, and I saw some of the tweets. I didn't see the phone number one, but he was also posting details about contracts that he had with like record labels.
Right. He wants to, it was a record producer, I think, that he posted. So he wants to buy his masters back from Sony and whoever else owns them. And they're not willing to give them up because they're like, hey, we make a lot of money with these. And so I think this is his way of like tantruming and trying to force their hand.
Yeah, that sounds pretty bipolar.
There were like, when I looked at it, there were like 6 or 7 tweets all in a row, really long, like kind of rambly. And then I guess he posted the phone number later, but.
And encouraged people to call the man and negotiate on his behalf, which is a no-no.
That is a no-no.
That guy's gonna have to change his phone number. You think? Like, there's no way that didn't get screenshotted and shared all over the internet.
Yeah, you can't put that back in the bottle. 12 hours seems maybe just like a little bit of a slap on the wrist there.
Yeah.
You know what? I think Kanye will sin again on Twitter.
Yeezy, please.
All right.
Well, Chris, you got any garden updates for us this week?
My garden's probably gonna die this weekend. It's supposed to be in the 40s overnight.
It is. That's a really, really autumny day out there. It's kind of nice.
It is. We have tomatoes and peppers still growing. I think they'll probably be done after this weekend. And then I went on and moved all our herbs inside. So we'll have them for the winter.
Nice.
But other than that, we're done.
And we're done.
Congrats.
We'll see you in the next one. What do we got? Business and security?
No, it's going to be the smallest one. Probably robots.
Business and robots.
A sprinkling of robots.
And then security, a lot of security, and nonsense on Friday.
Nonsense. All right. Bye. Hello. Today is September 23rd, and we're doing business and robot. Was it business and robot? Business and robot. I almost said government, and I was like, that's not right. We just did government. Business.
So, of course, when we talk about business almost every week, we got to talk about Amazon. And Amazon is taking over the country.
They're killing it.
Because we're dependent on them for everything. And what they like is to have us dependent on them, but them be dependent on no one except themselves. And in that interest, they're taking over grocery and now shipping. And they're doing a really, really incredible thing that is bad news for UPS and FedEx and the Postal Service.
Amazon plans to put 1,000 warehouses in suburban neighborhoods. Ooh. This was, again, Bloomberg. The other version of the article I read said that they were also kicking this off by hiring 33,000 people pretty much immediately. By the time you're watching this,
they had the applicants that showed up were overwhelmingly, like there were so many more than the jobs.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that job.
Yeah.
Maybe the biggest insult here is that almost all of these warehouses are within a stone's throw of a UPS hub.
Or a Walmart.
So they're like, hey, yeah, this is a good location. We'll have some land here. Thank you. Looking forward to that.
How long before Amazon just is like, we would buy UPS, but it's cheaper to just rip off their business model?
That's what they're doing. And they are doing it for cheaper. Now, those drivers are generally a lot crappier, you have to say.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
The other thing that was surprising for this is the article I read also mentions some of like the Walmart logistics network, that they borrowed some ideas from how Walmart manages their logistics network. But on the whole, if you look at like how computerized Walmart was, you remember like
The just in time?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, how did Amazon out Walmart? Because they're literally turning into Walmart in terms of their physical presence.
Walmart got complacent.
Yeah.
They didn't do the online thing. It burned them.
Which is crazy because they were the first one. You remember they had like those giant IBM checkouts where it was just like, you know, the vacuum tubes, like boop.
That's how it happens, man. You ever seen the Rocky movies? You become champ, you get soft. So now, who's the contender that's going to knock Bezos off his pedestal?
I don't think we've seen it yet.
Although I think remember, because he gave that speech and he was like, listen, someday Amazon will fall. It's our job to make it go as long as it possibly can.
Yeah.
And that is the attitude you have to have, I think.
He's definitely bought up anything that could even remotely compete with Amazon, like Whole Foods. It's like, a grocery store where people don't want the lowest price? Buy it.
It's almost like, you know, it's anti-competitive when you just buy up all your competition.
And create a workforce that competes with the unionized workforce, but aggressively de-unionize them by spying on them. So, speaking of big business moves, when last we spoke, chat, it was almost sure everybody, it was in the bag. Microsoft and Walmart were getting TikTok. That's how it was going to go. But the last minute, no one knows why, a wild card.
TikTok picks Oracle over Microsoft in Trump-forced sales bid. Trump's ordered app owner will sell to its U.S. businesses over national security concerns. They're still figuring out how to divvy up the baby. Some of the internal TikTok stuff, that's not going to be part of this. Like some of the algorithm stuff and some of the internal stuff, they're going to get from TikTok's sister company in China and just package that up in an American application and distribute it that way.
TikTok picking Oracle just kind of confirms it's evil, right? Like,
I think, you know,
I don't know what happened there.
I think Microsoft could do something useful technically with TikTok. Handing it to Oracle would be like me handing an iPad to my grandma. It's like, there's nothing that's going to happen with that.
Well, something's going to happen, but it's going to use a tiny, tiny amount of the iPad's power, and it's not going to be that useful.
Yeah.
Speaking of the iPad's power, it's getting more powerful. And the Air version is stepping up to the point that, I don't know, who's going to buy a Pro after this?
There isn't really very many features left in the Pro. The Pro would have to be super upgraded after this to compete. Apple today, there's the Apple event. They introduced a whole bunch of stuff. The first thing we're going to talk about they introduced was the iPad Air. Slimmer bezels, and it's got a fingerprint reader in the button. It's basically got all the features of the iPad Pro, but it's way cheaper. Insanely way cheaper. Compatible with the Apple Pencil. Chris, I bet you're excited about that.
I mean, I'm not planning on replacing the one I have yet, but it's always nice to see innovation that'll be nice in a few years when I upgrade.
It is basically the same one you already have, just in a slightly different form factor.
And cheaper.
Yeah.
And cheaper.
And cheaper. Yeah, that'll definitely be nicer too. For a lot of people ask us, like, what tablet should I get? I've seen some threads about that in the forum, and like, if you can afford it, the iPad Pro's worth it, but this would be a nice contender too if you're on a budget.
It's no longer worth it because of this one.
Yeah.
And it's an iPad.
Well,
I mean, it is an iPad, but the pencil really makes it worth it if you're doing illustration.
For like 0.05% of the population who's into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that you might be wanting to get from Apple, if you're going to refresh your whole Apple wardrobe, is the watch.
Apple announces the Apple Watch Series 6 with the ability to measure blood oxygen levels. Now, Apple has already seeded this to all kinds of YouTubers and other people, so there's all sorts of fun and interesting articles about it. The Verge has their hands on, but let's face it, The Verge is the antithesis of technical. So check out some of the other material and content. But the blood oxygen sensor, that's long overdue, in my opinion.
Do you think they added the blood oxygen thing because of the pandemic?
Yes.
But here's the question.
Hilarious.
Here's your engagement challenge, chat. Annually, what will the data of all Apple Watch users' blood oxygen levels be worth when Apple resells it?
You know what's funny? In the press thing, they made it. They talked for about a minute about how they're not all of this stuff lives on the device. So like even your recommendations, like it pops up and it's like, you know, hey fatty, how about some cardio? They said all of that is happening right on the phone.
No, yeah, I believe that. Totally. Sure. And everything might be happening on the phone, but one thing won't be happening in the box.
Apple is removing the USB power adapter from the upcoming Apple Watch boxes. It's only a matter of time before that happens to the iPhones and the iPads and literally everything else. Apple was saying, look, we want to be responsible, and
Right.
we're working with oil companies to reduce our carbon emissions. Wait a minute. What? Working with oil companies to reduce your carbon emissions? They also were very careful to skirt the batteries. They were like, when we exclude the batteries, look at how responsible we are. And it was like, but what about the batteries? It's like, we're not using beryllium or lithium or mercury or anything like that. I was like, but what about the battery manufacturing? He's like, we're working on that.
Yeah, but we're gonna save the planet by
and you're gonna pay for it.
Exactly.
That's like Mexico and the wall. It's like, we're gonna build that. They're gonna pay for it.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna get the if he loses, the wall is officially done, huh?
Yeah.
Didn't get it.
Rip in peace.
Can't say that I think it was gonna be effective. So it's not all sunshine and apple pie in the Apple world. I didn't mean to say apple twice there. There are some darkness. They are still fighting some battles. One of the biggest one that's raging right now is, of course, with Epic. And boy, do they love throwing out barbs at each other in the press.
Apple says that Epic is a saboteur, not a martyr, in the App Store battle. So Bloomberg has got this week's update on the court filings. This is getting kind of intense in the run-up to the September 28th. I think the first hearing is September 28th. So it's right around the corner. And Apple is saying, no, look, Epic, this is a calculated move for business. Don't feel bad for Epic, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, if Epic gets its way, it is going to be better for all developers everywhere.
But that's not the worst thing you can say about Epic. The worst thing you can say, the thing that hurts the most, and there might be more than a grain of truth to it, is not that they're evil, it's that they're not going to matter soon.
Apple says the Fortnite hype is fading, and the only reason Epic Games started a legal battle was to generate buzz. I think this headline is half right. I think the Fortnite hype is fading, but I think that Epic Games wants a launcher on an iPad, just like they've got the Epic Games launcher on their desktop. Just like like the Microsoft launcher, where, you've got the games from Microsoft and subscription service and blah, blah, blah.
Or
Epic,
Steam or, yeah.
We've gotten a few free games from the Epic launcher just by logging in at the right time.
A few.
Well,
I've got a massive library. I've never given them $1. That's not true. I bought like 2 games.
Epic wants the same thing because it turns out that is a moneymaker. Epic makes all of their money from V-Bucks and the in-game customization and trinkets and crap like that. None of the other stuff matters. And so they want to have their own Epic App Store, and they've got the game library to do it. But with Apple as gatekeeper, that's 30% off the top.
Yeah, I'm shocked that Fortnite is still as relevant as it is. Now, they point out in the article it's a 70% drop from last year, I think. Maybe it was a shorter amount of time. But that's only for Apple users. I don't know about like desktop and...
Well, I think they used they said that they looked at it by search too, not necessarily how many people had it installed. I know lots of people who still play it every day.
Yeah, the time to search would be far from over, right? Because if you don't know about it by now,
yeah,
people just have it installed and they're using it. I don't know. I hate Fortnite. I don't understand but there's a lot of things I don't understand that are popular. So, what do I know? The other big tech. It's not a battle. This was an agreement, but it's becoming a battle. Because it seems like everybody except for these 2 companies don't want this to happen.
ARM co-founder starts Save ARM campaign to keep independence amid a $40 billion NVIDIA deal. So I don't, a lot of this guy's arguments are undermined by the fact that it was sold to SoftBank before, a Japanese company. So he's like, what about the UK jobs and what about blah, blah, blah? And we need, we have some concerns. Yeah, but you sold it to SoftBank. You didn't have those concerns then? You would have built it into the sale agreement, wouldn't you?
The big argument is ARM is a UK company, and now it's going to be a US company. And that's their only big chip maker in the UK. And so they're like, hey, we don't want the White House to be in control. This is not fair. What about the workers? And like you say, that ship sailed a long time ago. The staff have voiced to their complaints, and it seems like everybody involved at the high levels are like, yeah, right. Whatever. Go back to your hole.
Cambridge staff fobbed off at meeting over ARM sale to NVIDIA, the union says. This is in The Guardian. So I tried to find more about this, and it seems to be an even split. There are some people at ARM who are excited about this move because there's nowhere to go there's nowhere to go but up, because NVIDIA gives ARM a lot of stuff that they wouldn't have had on their own. But there are some people that work for ARM that are concerned like their job would leave or would leave the country or anything like that. So this was mainly the union. Like the union was doing most of the saber rattling here in this Guardian article. But there are other blog posts from employees, and I can't tell if they've been prompted to do this by ARM or if it's just genuine, but some of the ARM employees posts that I've read and some of the other articles say that they're really excited for the deal. So I don't know.
Yeah, if you're going to get some stock options, now's the time, right? NVIDIA stock's pretty nice. They have also, I think the union is losing power in this whole thing. Yeah. And they're fighting to hang on to that. So, yeah, we'll see. The people at ARM, not the people at NVIDIA, have said all your jobs are safe. Everything's going to stay in this country. It's going to go on like it has been. But they've only said that. There's nothing guaranteeing that. They can say whatever they want. They're going to be on a beach somewhere in 3 weeks.
Jensen needs to fly over and be like, this is what we're going to do. And then everybody will feel good about it.
But that is not the most exciting thing about NVIDIA for most people this week. Jesus Christ, the hype on I really don't like the hype train. But this one it's extra disgusting. But it seems like it's actually for real. Like, this is pretty amazing.
No. The NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080 review. Ampere is a gaming monster. This is from Hot Hardware. The Ryan approved headline is, it's only 30% faster with 10,000 CUDA cores. What's wrong? So, thing's a power monster. It's some of the press material from NVIDIA said it's twice as fast. It's only twice as fast in RTX-enabled things because it's doing lots of shenanigans with AI and a bunch of other really mostly software, some hardware optimization. It does have some new AI stuff, things like that. But it is faster than a 2080 Ti. But it also uses more power than a 2080 Ti. So
it's faster than the Titan, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, the 3090 isn't even out yet. So that one will be the one to look at. That one's the one to compare to the Titan because of the VRAM. Because the 3080 right now only has 10 gigs of VRAM. But it is the fastest car. I mean, yeah.
People don't care about the core count and all the stuff you're talking about. Is it the fastest?
Yeah. I think that it's going to be, people last gen where they were like a 700 watt power supply is all you need or a 600 watt power supply is all you need. They're going to have problems now because the card is using like 100 watts more than the 2080 Ti. So depending on what kind of a power supply you got in your last system, upgrading to the 3080 might be problematic.
We can all agree that those people are losers.
It's also the price. The price is, I was genuinely surprised that the price is what it is. It makes it seem like it's a good price, but only because I think the 2000 series was priced so high.
But are you going to be able to get them, though? That's the big thing.
Yeah, they all sold out immediately.
What price are you going to pay?
Yeah.
That's the issue with video cards, especially these days.
I have two friends who've been trying to find one, and they're both like, we can't find it anywhere. And I'm like, well, you're just going to have to wait.
Oh, you skipped the Verge article. I thought you did that to optimize.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
I noticed that as well.
Yeah, well, so if you're following along on the one tab. Sorry. This is just a great story because the phone companies are out of ideas, clearly. And
thing's awful.
They have this, I think they have this sort of like meta idea. It's like, it's something with the screens. Something with the screens is going to get them. I don't know exactly what. Just throw what you can against the wall, but with the screens.
The LG Wings twisting screen offers a new spin on the dual screen smartphone. So when it's folded, it's stacked, and when it's unfolded, stacked, and then so yeah, you've got a screen on the bottom that's like a keyboard, but actually another screen.
Now here's a question: what do you think happens when you drop that in the T formation?
It explodes.
Yeah. Also, what if you get a little grain of dirt or sand in between? How close are these two screens together?
You're gonna have circular scratches in your screen.
That seems like a big problem to me.
This thing is like the maxi pad of phones. It's even got wings. Like,
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not. It's been so long since I've seen those advertisements. Yeah. The wings.
yeah, that's what it looks like.
For your heaviest days.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're excited about weird rotating phones, what about if the catch gets broken and it won't stay? That's a $99 repair. The other big pre-order, and apparently these pre-orders are also completely already, you can't get them. Don't even bother trying. Gateway timeout for all the websites where you are trying, because people are just hammering them so hard. Now, last week we talked about Xbox. Xbox is launching November 11th, and the big question is, what about Sony? What are they going to do? And pretty close.
PlayStation 5 launches November 12th for $499. The PS5 Digital Edition will cost $399. So yeah, both consoles, the Xbox and the PlayStation, have a digital option. So it's got to be bad news for GameStop.
Also, I suspect many of these discs, or it's going to be one of those things where it's just an installer.
Yeah.
Which is so disgusting. But yeah.
It's bad news for America's internet infrastructure too. Can't wait for those Netflix dilettantes to come out and be like, no, Microsoft should totally have to pay more for being able to download games through your ISP that you pay monthly service fee for.
Also, could be a little bit rough getting that pre-order delivery, considering that's right after the election.
Oh yeah. Will we even still have a postal service by then?
I don't know.
Buy and eat stamps to support the post office. Consume stamps.
I really think that the post office should have come up with like some cynical but tongue-in-cheek humor items like backpacks and caps and stuff, and just thrown that up on the website. Just be like, we're having a bake sale for a mail sorting machine. Can you go buy some hats and some baked goods?
What about
store.level1.com?
here's a great idea. Like when the post-election riots happen, the Postal Service, as they're still making deliveries during that difficult time, their new slogan can be, when the ship hits the fan. They could have a little promotional video where there's one's got an umbrella, dodging through fire and tear gas and popping a letter in a mailbox.
He smiles big at the camera.
I just rearranged 2 more stories. Calling audibles all over the place. Because I figured this was the better one to start with. Now, when it comes to, of course, everybody wants to get their new hardware out this time of year. It's the holiday season. It's the time. It's the time when you release new hardware. And Oculus is no different. Now, if you'll recall, the Oculus, what was the name of it? Oculus something. It was their big event. And it was supposed to be all about the Oculus. But Facebook said, we're not going to call it that anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's the Facebook event.
Yeah. Oculus Quest 2 offers a more powerful standalone VR headset for $299. So apparently they are still going to use the Oculus moniker, even though they're moving away from it, because this is the Oculus standalone VR headset.
They probably already had it printed on the boxes. They already had the boxes made. This is battery powered, no longer tethered. And I guess it's wireless altogether. Interesting.
Is it going to be crap?
They say it's going to be better than the current one, and they are going to stop selling the current one. There's a video here. I didn't watch it.
It's going to be bad for people that have the 8-hour streams of Beat Saber.
90 hertz refresh rate, but not yet. Better resolution. It's a iterative step.
1832 by 1920.
Is that cheaper than the old one?
Yeah, by a lot.
Yeah. The old one was like at least 500, right?
Yeah, it was a lot.
More if you bought all
Much
the...
better price point.
And we got the Pro version, which was markedly better than the other one that I tried, which is the non-Pro version. When we borrowed the one from the fans.
So that's not all that Facebook is doing when it comes to the virtual reality world. They are also so many people have failed. No one can get this right, but I guess Facebook's going to try it out.
Facebook's going to release its first augmented reality glasses in 2021. You truly can be a glass hole with Facebook's new product.
A glass hole.
They do not have a picture of it. Now, they are partnering with Luxottica and I think Ray-Ban.
In an effort to give them an impossible task. Like, we need you to turn this headgear that looks like somebody's been in a terrible accident and turn it into something that's fashionable.
This is the dev version. It's a little thick.
I think it looks it looks perfectly reasonably Jeff Goldblum.
It's got a very obvious camera right there or some kind of sensor. So, yeah, I don't know if they're going to make that socially acceptable. Google's was not that big.
It was pretty big.
But, yeah, people just aren't going to go for that. Sorry. This article was kind of a little bit meta and didn't give as much information as I thought. But I think it's kind of a bit of a darkness on the horizon for Microsoft. For anybody who wants just an operating system that doesn't try to take over their lives.
I'll read the headline, but I have questions. Microsoft is looking to make Meta OS, or I messed that up. How Microsoft is looking to Meta OS to make Microsoft 365 a whole life experience. And so, what Microsoft is envisioning here is you're using Microsoft 365, which is like chat and instant messenger as well as email, sort of all rolled up in one, plus document management, plus your own personal wiki and OneNote and all this other stuff, but also like doing that kind of stuff with your family. And so their vision for this is that you've just got this connected layer that's on your laptop and your phone and your TV and your desktop and everything else, and all of those devices know exactly who you are, and you've always got access to your account and your stuff. Beyond just having sort of the separate services, you almost get this like service soup of chat and email and then document management and everything else. And not just you, but also your family. So you can share stuff with your family and they can see things and move around and it's more natural. But Microsoft didn't really provide any concrete way or concrete description of like how they're going to do that or leverage technologies or anything else, other than to say that this is going to be a fundamental component of all operating systems across all devices. And I just don't see how they're going to pull that off.
Now, here's a question. I don't think they would do this. Certainly not. But do you think, could there be a possibility they would mine that for data?
Never. They would never do that.
I think they totally would. I think that's like the holy grail. It's like you have the thing and it's like, hey, Microsoft Assistant or Cortana or whatever, I'm looking at buying a new stove. And then it's like the marketing dinner bell goes off, and there's just a whole marketing team inside Microsoft. It's like this person suddenly went to being extremely valuable because we can get a commission if we can sell him a stove.
On the the future operating system front, it's looking a little dark in the Microsoft world, but at least on the server, and they have been doing this in Windows too, they are making more and more concessions to Linux.
Microsoft submits Linux kernel patches for a complete virtualization stack with Linux and Hyper-V. Linux on Azure might no longer need Windows. And so what they're looking at doing is being able to run Linux in Ring 0 in a hypervisor stack. So at the very lowest level, you would still have a Microsoft, sort of very thin layer at layer -1. But layer 0 has direct access to the hardware. And so they're going to be leveraging the Linux kernel to handle all of those VMs and handle the hardware. This is more like a Zen approach than KVM or even what VMware is doing, but it would be at a very low level in Hyper-V. And then Hyper-V that's running Linux guests, it's going to be a more natural ecosystem to be able to support that. And then, of course, Windows doesn't care because Windows is already a little, at higher levels in the hypervisor.
And when you do host on Azure, your instance might not be in a stuffy data center anymore. It's going to be somewhere a lot more exciting, and You might think more dangerous, but this test seems to prove that is not the case.
Microsoft's underwater data center resurfaces after 2 years. It had only an 8% failure rate, which was considerably lower than the equivalent data center elsewhere. Now, the difference here is that when you had a server die or a hard drive die in this data center, nobody's going to fix it for years. One of the reasons for that is maybe because there were no humans present in the data center. They literally evacuated the oxygen and filled the thing with nitrogen, which might also be part of why.
It's not loading the images, and that's... Oh, there we go. Something went wrong.
They're pressure washing it.
Had some barnacles and some algae on it.
As Windows does when Windows is used for a while.
Looks pretty good for 2 years under the water, though.
Under the sea?
So they found out the cooling is super cost effective. This was run on all renewable energy because it's in Ireland. And everything was great.
Surprisingly low failure rate.
Time to sink more of these.
The only good news we have from 2020 this year.
I wanted to know, was there a whole underwater ecosystem that was built around the warmth of that tube?
From the number of barnacles and stuff on it? Yeah, seems like it.
There was just a little holocaust down there as they pulled away their life source.
Can you imagine if it had catastrophic failure? Like you had that one mollusk that was like really just hammering one little spot, and then you get like a dime-sized hole in the thing, and then it's like, oh no, what's happening?
I'm sure we'll see that. Because they're talking about scaling it up. The bigger you make that, the more possibility you introduce. So we talked about Nikola last week, the other EV car company that took the other name from the guy. And the Hindenburg, this short-selling research...
Completely not unironically named.
Yeah, well, they put in their frequently asked questions. It's like, we look for the disasters. That's our thing. So they said it was all fake. Now, this guy came out, Milton came out, it's like, no, it's not all fake. You try to get in front of it. It's not everything they said was false. And they were like, well, what about the truck? Did the truck run? You said exactly the truck is fully powered. You made a big deal about it. You didn't just say one statement about it. You said, oh no, I hope nobody steals it. We better put up some chains and stuff. We definitely drove it in here. Was that true? And he didn't have a choice.
No, the answer was no. Ars Technica has the headline, Nikola admits prototype was rolling downhill in promotional video. If I saw that video, I would have never guessed that was a hill.
Well, that's because they rotated the camera to compensate.
That's why the grass is growing at a weird angle.
See those bushes back there? Look at these bushes.
Yeah, it's just rolling downhill.
It's windswept. Don't question it.
So I guess it had brakes.
Yeah, well, the only thing they didn't have was electric motors and a transmission, I think.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty big component.
Big part of it. Now, he has said, listen, that was the old version. We're not even working on that truck anymore. We have a new kind of truck. But the thing about the new truck is it's all third-party pieces. They didn't develop any of it. So, more bad news for them. Although they did bring it on themselves.
They did.
Yeah.
Wasn't there some investment bank that went out of business because their algorithm was like, let's invest everything in Nikola, and then they had their press event, and then it was just their stock was worthless, or their options were worthless, or something.
I don't know.
The puts were worthless.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. So in the modern day, you have to be really careful about what you say. It seems that almost everything is offensive to somebody, and oh boy, if you say it, the mob might come after you. And Nintendo wants to help its users out by preventing that from happening when they're using their Switch.
Nintendo Switch update bans more words and phrases. Yeah, that's a thing that we have to look forward to.
Now, we obviously can't say some of these. One of the things is the thing that we're not allowed to say.
You can't say that on a Switch?
KKK,
what?
That's an obvious one. ACAB, I had to look up. Do you know what it is?
No.
I know what it is.
All cops are bastards.
Oh.
Not allowed
They're hitting both sides there.
Not allowed to express that thought on the old on the Switch.
Or YouTube.
So, unfortunate. If you want to spew racial vitriol, take it like everybody else to Xbox Live. That's where it belongs.
Apparently.
We talked about the Gateway laptops coming back last week, and Acer, of course, owns that. But there was some speculation about, is Acer building these laptops? What exactly are these going to be? And Ars Technica has done some investigative reporting.
We found out who makes Walmart's new gateway laptops, and it's bad news. We'll give you 3 guesses, and here's a hint. Extra virgin olive oil. If you guessed EVOO, EVOO, yeah.
I read that headline. I was like, is it an Italian company?
No.
Confused.
It's like the worst. This is literal garbage. Literal garbage.
Now, they point out that this company, it's like, okay, how do they know that? Are they making them? Has there been a press release? No. What they found was a shipment of laptops with the exact same specs, half being EVOOs and half being gateways, in the same shipping container, shipping to the same warehouse. So it seems like they just rebranded some of the worst laptops in the universe and are selling them at Walmart.
Oh man, point me to the old gateway commercials on YouTube, because now we can deep fakes them or something with these new laptops, and it's like all the power of gateway from 2004 in 2020.
Well, maybe they should take the old name back, Gateway 2000, because that's what you're getting.
It sounds so futuristic.
This laptop is perfect for Windows 95.
And we only have, unfortunately, just 2 robot articles this week. It was a low robot week. But one of them has to do with, these darkest of times. It turns out that when your workforce is, down and out and susceptible to a virus, guess what isn't?
At least not the same kind of virus.
Yeah,
ransomware. Bloomberg has this article that the thing that we're in may permanently replace some human jobs with machines. This is obvious. It seems like some variation of this story comes up about every 2 to 3 weeks in the Level 1 news. But this one's in Bloomberg, so it's a little more mainstream. And it has some specific examples where companies have adjusted. Amazon with their warehouse robots and all this other stuff, everything has adjusted. So it's a little bit of a nothing burger here.
And one of those jobs, again, and this comes up all the time, but no one has ever gotten it 100% right, it seems. This one seems to do a pretty good job. And I think the problem here is you still have to get it yourself.
That's okay.
I am fine with that. Unfortunately, though, the other problem on top of that is they can do 4 tables at a time, which means if I'm table number 4, there's 3 chances for people to accidentally or purposely mess with my food.
AI robot serves customers at a Seoul restaurant. I don't know if I said that right. Pronounced that right.
I think it's just Seoul.
Seoul.
Is it just Seoul?
Seoul restaurant.
So it's basically a tray on wheels.
Yeah.
I mean, the word robot, applicable, but
I'm moving to the waiting place.
Minimalist. So it comes over, and they do have some earlier footage here. People, you do have to bust your own.
The chef or whoever puts the food on it, and then it goes to the table, and then you get your own food, which I would be fine with, in all honesty.
Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah, this isn't bad at all.
And this minimizes human contact, which again seems like for the win.
Now, how does it deal with when I need a refill? It shows them using a tablet here.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how you do all that.
Yeah, hit a button and
Yeah.
another one comes over.
But then you have to constantly sanitize the tablet.
I could use my own
just
phone.
for your visit. Yeah, that's true. It should be an app.
That is one thing that has dramatically improved. Have you noticed? I mean, the app development companies must be working double overtime, because a lot of the restaurant apps from earlier this year to now, there have been some dramatic improvements.
Yeah.
Because that's what else they're going to do. You got to have that income. I still have not broken down. When I think about, for example, Chick-fil-A, every time I'm in line at Chick-fil-A, I'm like, I should just get the app. But then I think to myself, I don't need that much Chick-fil-A in my life. I should not do that. I should not make this a more convenient experience.
Chick-fil-A is the one place where you don't need the app. I've done takeout from there about 4 times since this whole thing started, and every time has been a dramatic improvement. And for some reason, I was craving it really bad the other day, but the building was double wrapped, and I was like, "There's no way I'm going to get through this in an hour." But I really,
15
I just
minutes.
It's I don't care. I'm going to do this, and it was immediate. I got in there and it was just.
It's when they send the people out.
Yeah,
that's the key, because there's no the problem with the drive-through is that human stupidity is cumulative. It compounds. So somebody who's just an idiot sitting there at the box talking to it, not able to, get to communicate like a human being, is going to cause a problem. Somebody at the window is going to cause a problem. And the fact that you're just sitting still anyway, and that stupidity can be all borne out during the sitting phase, it solves everything. Whoever came up with that is a genius.
Yeah, well, also just the volume of food coming out of that relatively tiny restaurant. Like, did they turn the entire building into a kitchen? Because the volume of production is just phenomenal.
Well, but the thing about Chick-fil-A is they're not making a lot of items. They're just frying chicken at a rapid pace. There's someone in there, and he's just covered with grease burns and whip marks on his back, and he's just cranking out those delicious sandwiches.
Well, they are fast, even though it looks like they would be swamped, so... genuinely very impressive.
They got to be making so much money.
It's like, yeah, I hope this continues. Like, not too many people wear a mask now. The numbers are really good at Q2.
All right, well, that's all we got for that one.
We'll see you Friday with nonsense.
Oh yeah, Level 1 techs. It's Friday every day when you're with us.
I'm just watching flooding footage on this Reuters. The videos turned over. Krista, did you say bye? You say it again.
I did. I whispered it, though. I was, bye! Hello. Today is September 24th, and it's a Friday. We're doing security. Huh?
25th.
It's the 25th.
25th. Whatever. It's the end of September, and we're doing nonsense and security today.
It's March 207th. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so it doesn't really... Dates are relative. It's almost October. Almost spooky time.
And what could be more spooky than a handful of security flaws that you have to work out for? Look out for. And the first one affects pretty much everybody with a phone in their hand right now, and so many other devices. This is really a bad one.
Billions of devices vulnerable to new BLESA Bluetooth security flaw. It's a Bluetooth low energy attack. And that's Bluetooth low energy is the BLE actually, I guess, in BLESA. So the attack it's just bad. It ignored Bluetooth reconnection process, unlike previous vulnerabilities, most found in the pairing operation. So this is when a device shows up again later. So this can be exploited pretty readily.
I have a set of speakers in my bedroom, and I have the Bluetooth receiver on them so I can play stuff from my tablet and phone. And it doesn't matter what the volume on a device is. The do-do-do when it reconnects is always the same volume. And there's so many times in the middle of the night where my tablet or my phone is like, better reconnect the Bluetooth. That's really annoying. So it does constantly reconnect. If somebody's looking to get to my speakers, I'm in trouble. That's a bad one, but
this one's worse.
Your Bluetooth devices are not quite as important as enterprise network devices, which also have a little bit of a problem. Or they did, although I'm sure they've not all been updated, so some of them still do.
Zero logon attack lets hackers take over enterprise networks. Patch now. Microsoft patches one of the most severe bugs ever reported to the company. So it turns out it's like zero logon. You just pad some fields with zeros, and you can get a domain controller to execute arbitrary commands.
It's a great image.
Yeah, it's just... Oh, look at that. This flaw is so ridiculous that I can't help but think it was deliberately planted by some intelligence agency. But okay, you know what? Whatever. Basically, you just have to insert yourself between a domain controller and an authenticated computer having a conversation, and then you can inject arbitrary code and take over the domain controller. You can reset the computer account's password on Active Directory. The whole thing takes about 3 seconds or less.
I gotta think, if I'm a penetration tester, this is pretty high on the list of things to try first.
Yeah.
How did we not figure this out for so long?
Yeah. How did SMB v1 literally have arbitrary code execution as one of its features? That's not a bug. It's literally built to do that.
So, China, they're often in the security news, aren't they? This week is no exception, because they just keep hacking.
Chinese state hackers are exploiting F5, Citrix, Pulse Secure, and Exchange bugs. CISA says the attack started a year ago, and some have been successful. So there have been a number of really high-profile, really severe security issues, and pretty much every company on Earth is using at least one of those things. Well, every company larger than like 10 people, I should say.
And that's not the only thing. Hey, do you like video games? Do you trust the software that your video gaming company provides you to play those games? Well, that might be a mistake.
Krebs on Security has this amazing... the Justice Department this week indicted 7 Chinese nationals for a decade-long hacking spree that targeted more than 100 high-tech and online gaming companies. It was literally a Chinese antivirus firm. They were part of Apt 41, which is the state-sponsored, advanced persistent threat hacking group that had been here forever. They've been working on this for a decade. A decade.
And the funniest thing was, so obviously they were trying to get malware in there if they could and stuff like that, and Bitcoin miners or whatever, that kind of stuff. But they were also stealing in-game currencies and trading them. Like the Chinese government is stealing WoW gold. That's part of their
They've
official...
gone too far.
Yeah. What if that's
Not
your job? Your family's, what do you do for the government? I can't tell you. And your secret is you steal WoW gold.
Well, I think it's a safe bet there wouldn't be any counterintelligence unit on our side making sure that their WoW gold is not stolen.
That's the sadder job, is the guy at the FBI whose job is to police the WoW economy. Oh, man. So hacking used to be a pretty complicated thing, but then we had this weird situation where everybody's credentials just got leaked online. And a new form of hacking that's pretty low effort came into existence, but it seems to be pretty successful.
The FBI says that credential stuffing attacks are behind some recent bank hacks. So all of these security breaches that we're talking about, where people have been able to recover hashed passwords or even worse, unencrypted passwords, now the criminals are trying them at various bank websites. A lot of people use the same password everywhere. They've got your name, they've got your email address, maybe a bunch of your email addresses. They've got your password, maybe a bunch of passwords by correlating your email address with all of the other passwords. So they can just look through that thing like a database and try to log into your bank with your email and a bunch of passwords that you are known to have used in the past.
I actually got an email, and I hadn't used my GoDaddy account in probably 7 years. And I was like, hey, thanks for logging into your GoDaddy account. I was like, what? Somebody had stuffed it. Because I hadn't used it in so long, it still had the darknet password on it.
Nice.
It's just one of those websites I forgot that I had an account. Luckily, I didn't have any domains or anything on there. They couldn't do anything. There was no credit card, but still alarming.
Yeah. If GoDaddy hadn't emailed you to be like, blah, blah, blah. But also, if your credentials were on a stolen list of credentials that GoDaddy or somebody else leaked, shame on them for not running your password through the leak, because
really,
Microsoft and Google have both been doing that. I've got some honeypot accounts that are set up, and Gmail straight up was like, hey, your password is on a list. You need to log in and you need to change it right now.
Chrome does that inherently.
Oh, yeah. With the changes in Chrome, it's like, you're filling out a form with this. You got to change this, even though Chrome doesn't know what website you're on.
It's pretty cool. This is one of the this is not a hack. This is a leak. One of the sadder ones, because it is certainly a portion of our country who is underserved, treated pretty poorly. And now this is kind of insult to injury, literally injury.
Personal information of roughly 46,000 veterans has been exposed in a Veterans Affairs hack. So it turns out the VA was not handling data really well, which is sad because this is the 3rd or 4th time this has happened in as many years. Sometimes it was a stolen laptop. This time, breached database.
You gotta have one a week. But to take the security section to an even darker ending, our last story is the saddest thing that can happen when ransomware and hacking goes wrong. Well, I guess it went right, didn't it? But the outcome was very wrong.
German hospital hacked, and patient taken to another city dies. So this is probably going to be the first death that can be chalked up to ransomware. German authorities said Thursday what appears to have been a misdirected hacker attack caused the failure of IT systems at a major hospital in Dusseldorf. And a woman who needed urgent admission died because she had to be taken somewhere else for treatment.
The really crazy thing here is that we don't have some sort of system in a hospital for like just triage to be like, okay, Ignore the check-in process. Just stop the death from happening. But they were like, listen, our hands are tied. Take them to the other hospital. She was dead by the time she got there.
A lot of the time, drugs for dealing with trauma, and even just things like, morphine or anything like that, those are all, like, the computer has to dispense those, and you have to explain why.
Yeah. So, big terrorist attack, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could just crowbar them out of there. But so, they say mistaken identity because the Dusseldorf University has a university hospital, obviously. The hacker didn't seem to understand that they had gotten the hospital. They thought they had gotten the university. And they were like, hey, Dusseldorf University, send me Bitcoin. And when the cops called them, they were like, do you realize that you have a hospital? They just said, oh, God. And they sent the key. But the woman was already dead. They might have lost some sleep over that. They might have deserved to. And moving on to nonsense, one of the big trends from the world that we live in, the darkest of timelines, is that a lot of people are not moving out or moving back.
The thing has pushed nearly 30 million young adults to move in with their parents. Working from your parents' home. Yeah, this seems reasonable. It's better than being homeless.
Yeah.
Probably.
It still sucks, though.
Probably is. They threw out some numbers, and they are pretty huge. I think it's nearly half. No, it's the majority of 18 to 29. So more 18 to 29-year-olds live at home with their parents than don't at this point.
Have you joined our Patreon?
Well, you're not.
Patreon.com.
You're not spending money on housing, right? This guy, they talked to this psychologist who has coined the term emerging adults. I picture them like, they're in a chrysalis and they're like fighting their way out of it.
This isn't people who don't want to live on their own. It's just that it's so unaffordable to do so that, this is the only option they have.
Or they're unemployed because...
Well, the number of people that are coming out of college with just an insane debt, I really question the value of that. I mean, you might actually get more, useful life education apprenticing with a plumber or an electrician or something.
There's no might about it.
Yeah. My younger cousins, we've been talking about what they want to do in the future, and most of them at this point have gone into a trade because it doesn't make sense financially to send them to school unless they really want to study something specific.
The modern university experience, if we went to university right now, the experience would be, you're evil. Let me give you 4 years of telling you why you're just the biggest piece of garbage in the world, and you give me $60,000 every year.
Yes, it's crazy how much. Even I haven't been out of college that long, but I think I was in debt $30,000, and now it's doubled that in the time that I've been out of school.
There are people in our comments that are going to be like, I'm $250,000 in debt, and I just graduated.
You made some poor life choices. So let me just throw out a scenario for you here, chat. This is kind of like a reincarnation type thing. How would you like this existence? You are born, and you are a blank. You have no ability to breed. You have no purpose in life. You're not like all the others of your species. But once in a while, evil scientists come, and they inject you with the qualities of others better than you, far better than you. And then you act as a sort of sex surrogate to pass on those genes, even though you have none. How do you like that idea? I don't know how these guys feel about it, but they don't get a choice.
Gene editing to produce super dad livestock. So there's a picture of goats here. Well, what they're doing is, technically these goats are sterile, but they can give them an injection, and the injection, they'll be the surrogate of whatever they gave them an injection for. So cows, or they talk even about racehorses. It's you know, right now with breeding, it's let's breed the really good one, but the really good one literally can't breed fast enough. But one way they could breed fast enough is by creating all of these surrogate, goats or whatever that all are the same, identical genetically. That seems like that would be bad for disease immunity.
This is good.
It would be incredibly bad for disease immunity.
This is such dystopian sci-fi stuff. What if we got to a world where something bad happened or something went wrong, and now all we got left are blanks, and we don't have the reloads.
Bananas.
Yeah, I was just going to say bananas.
happen.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Sweet and yummy, delicious bananas. What we have now is just a chalky shadow of what once was.
What they used to be. And they don't produce seeds, I don't think, anymore. Like, it's hard to find bananas with seeds anymore. It's already happened. Let's not have it happen with a major part of our food supply, like meat.
If this happened to chickens, I'd just say just wrap it all up. There's no reason to live if we don't have chickens.
No tendies.
Can you imagine that? It's like, I'm a prize chicken breeder. And it's just like, what? It's like, yeah, I've got a lineage dating back to the rural hills of Appalachia where chickens were raised the old-fashioned way.
So that whole thing plays out, and we think we've lost all the chickens, but the ones that are there to save us are the cockfighters.
Oh, no.
They've been in the abandoned coal mines in eastern Kentucky. So it's the one place the laser scanners in orbit can't see them.
That'd be a good movie. Now, we are spending a whole lot of effort. People like Elon Musk and the U.S. government and everybody's governments, actually, we're all looking to get to that red planet. We want to go to Mars. And the dream is, what if something else had lived there before? Let's find life. We need something to distract us from the hell that is Earth. But maybe we're looking in the wrong direction.
Venus might host life. New discovery suggests the unexpected atmospheric detection of phosphine, a smelly gas made by microbes on Earth, could spark a revolution in astrobiology. So phosphine breaks down. There's not really, like, it would be hard for there to be a non-biological process that we know of for this to exist. So we're already talking about mounting a probe and an expedition to go and see if there's microbial life in the atmosphere of Venus. And then some scientists also pointed out, they stood up and they're like, wait, if microbial life is everywhere, because there is some good indirect evidence of microbial life on Mars, even going back to 1976 with the original lander missions. If it's on Mars and it's on Venus, the chances are, life is everywhere. But we don't see any evidence of complex life like alien civilizations. So maybe the Great Filter lies before us. Maybe this is as far as any species makes it before they are extinguished.
Or maybe the type of life on Venus, because it's very inhospitable, is nothing like we could imagine it is. And when they get here, the comparatively temperate atmosphere of Earth will make them super powerful, much like Superman, and they will enslave us. And burn us with their superheated skins.
Or because they're microbes, we won't even see it coming. We'll just all die.
That'd be the best thing. Now, you might be thinking, hey, the weather's cooling off. What better way to take in the autumn than to protest the government? Maybe burn a few cars, throw some Molotovs, It's watch the leaves change.
Just don't do it with iCloud.
Yeah, leave your phone at home. But there are other reasons to rethink that decision, and this one in particular might scare you.
CNBC says the feds considered using a heat ray on D.C. protesters. A military whistleblower says federal officials sought some unusual crowd control devices, including one that's been called a heat ray, to deal with protesters outside the White House on that June day when law enforcement forcibly cleared Lafayette Square. So the heat ray, one of the other military people said that it feels like your skin is on fire.
Because it is kind of on fire.
It is classified whether or not we're actually using these in war zones, but it seems like maybe the deployment had been slowed down because it doesn't just seem like your skin's on fire, but you actually get some pretty serious burns from these in some instances. They also tried to get the LRADs, which are the acoustic attacks that we've seen before.
The weaponized brown note.
They said that this didn't happen, but I'm pretty sure I saw clips in Philadelphia where there were some strange sounds.
Well, this was in Washington. This was the White House one.
It didn't happen in Washington.
So they say that this guy went in and he was like, all right, let's deploy these items. And they said, we don't have those. What are you talking about? So.
No, I'm pretty sure that, I don't know about the other one, but the LRAD, I think, was used. Maybe not in Washington, but in other parts of the country.
Well, I think they were just saying that the White House team didn't have one. Not that they don't exist. They certainly exist. Both of these do. The big mask debate rages on, and sometimes
much like the indoor plumbing debate rages on.
You have to wonder, like, okay, it's hard enough to get people to do this, but when they do it, do we really want to, just pick at it and find all these little rules? But of course, it's the American education system, so We have to do
Absolutely.
that.
Orange County fifth grader asked to remove Hooters themed mask. Okay.
It didn't even have a picture of the owl. I mean, let's face it. We all know that the Hooters restaurant is a thinly veiled reference to the female breast. It's part of their hiring practice. It's their charm. It's the reason they exist. But this mask is just the word Hooters.
It's what it implies.
Was the kid actually in school even, or was this just remote learning?
Well, there'd be no reason for a mask for remote learning. So yeah, I think he did go to school. The teacher said, "Take off your Hooters mask." He said, "Why?" And she was like, "Don't question me." And he said, "Explain to me why the word Hooters is bad." And she said, "If you want that explanation, go to the principal." He did. The balls on this kid. I love it. And the principal said, "Don't question it. Just take it off." So, they're going to send him back with the mask. See what happens next week. He did take it off. He had a backup mask. Something tells me that they might have known it might have been controversial.
Yeah. And it just seems like a veil to, I want to cause a scene.
But a lot of people do hate the masks, and they make some interesting analogies when it comes to Orwellian or over-controlling forces that will force you to do things like wearing a mask. At Disney, it's no exception, and this guy was using their own stories against them.
Maskless man ejected from Disney's Hollywood studios today while screaming misquotes from Pixar's A Bug's Life. And the headline is like, what? WTF? So no, it was the speech where like one ant was standing up and he's like, if all of us ants stand up to the authoritarian thugs, then we can all take over.
The grasshoppers.
Yeah.
The grasshopper. It's
so,
like you haven't seen A Bug's Life.
Yeah, well, I haven't. So
well, I know what you're doing this weekend.
So yeah, I don't, but nobody cared because again, it's like arguing against indoor plumbing.
Oh, there come the comments.
Mostly no. I mean,
so yeah,
we've said worse things in weeks gone by, and people are like, yeah, even if it doesn't help, it's a minor inconvenience to be asked to wear a mask.
But also, if you don't believe in masks, then don't go to Disneyland. Jesus.
Yeah.
It's not something you have to do in your life.
Well, this is in Florida, so it's Disney World. Because of course it's in Florida.
Oh, I thought it was California.
Yeah.
He does look like a Florida man, doesn't he?
He does. He has that Florida man energy.
I get that he's stressed. He's probably just misdirecting his stress.
Well, a lot of people are stressed in these darkest of times, and you got to find a way to channel that stress. You got to release it somehow. This would be the wrong way to do it.
I don't even... drugs have to be involved here. The headline was someone broke into a Gulf? I don't even know how that's pronounced. Home and pooped in the dishwasher and then left, according to police. So they broke in. The dishwasher was open because there was a fresh load of dishes that were there. They pooped on the dishwasher and then they left.
What if you did notice that and just popped it closed and turned it on?
That's new dishwasher time. Like just
burn the house.
Yeah. It's just
The only way to be sure.
They didn't have any leads. Nothing was stolen, so they don't know.
This has got to be drugs. There had to be drugs involved.
What drug makes you do
just
that?
someone who's trashy, who's like, you know what? Screw this person.
The mother load of meth.
What if they knew exactly who it was, and they're so scared at this point, they're just like, oh, yeah, we're not sure. Maybe this was a real message.
Your dishwasher, you need a new dishwasher because the dishwasher's entered that phase of its life where sometimes there's little tiny fine particles of food left behind on the dishes, and somebody was over for a dinner party and they noticed that, and it's like, Karen, you need to get a new dishwasher.
They're rubbing their thumb on the fork. What is this?
And they're like, no, I don't want to get a new dishwasher. I just need to run a few empty loads through the dishwasher to get the food particles out and maybe clean the little trap in the bottom. And they're like, no, you need to get a new dishwasher. And they're like, no, I'm not going to. It's like, I'll show you. And then this happens.
Oh.
I bet that's what happened.
Quarantine hysteria.
Speaking of which, there are some people in this world who thrive only on attention. It's like a form of photosynthesis for them. If they can't get it, they will wilt and die. And when the world is going crazy, the focus may be shifted away from them. and they'll do almost anything to get it back, including taking on a near suicidal fight.
Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather, boxing match confirmed. This is not going to go how he imagines.
Floyd Mayweather considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, especially in terms of defensive boxing. And Logan Paul, what are his credentials?
Didn't he find a body in the suicide note? Isn't that it? Was it him? He has a brother too, but I forget his name.
He has had some celebrity matches, but I don't think.
Maybe he's just paying Floyd Mayweather and it's all a publicity stunt.
They will make a lot of money.
Like, looking at this picture, the guy covered in glitter, I'm not going to bet on him in a boxing match.
Floyd Mayweather is getting old, but just a few years ago he fought Conor McGregor, who is also considered the best MMA fighter, or was for a while, and beat him pretty soundly. So I don't think Paul has much of a chance there. But I will say this, I wouldn't mind watching the highlights, especially if there's a knockout.
YouTube ad dollars.
I'm not going to pay for it, but I'll check out some clips. Sure. Companies, we've changed our whole lifestyle, and companies are radically trying to shift their product line to adapt to the pandemic and the way that everything is different now. Pepsi has 2 real hits on its hands here. The marketing or the product development team is really earning their money.
They've knocked it out of the park with
Krista,
this one.
I got to think that you're interested in this one.
I'll read the headline first. PepsiCo to launch drink to aid sleep as consumers struggle with stress. Now, I am indeed struggling to sleep, but I'm trying to cut back on my my Pepsi addiction.
Well, this is not soda. This is a, what do they call it? Infused water product?
An enhanced water
Yeah.
drink.
Enhanced, yeah.
L-theanine and 10% of the daily value of magnesium.
Now, I do take a magnesium supplement at night.
Does that help you sleep?
Oh, it's not like right away, but over time, my sleep schedule has vastly improved with magnesium.
Interesting.
I tried, what is it? It's the... Shoot, if I hadn't tried to say it, I would be able to remember. But there's some other, like, it's not really a sleeping pill, but it's like a supplement you can take.
I know what you're talking about, and I can't think of it either.
I tried that, but it didn't do anything for me.
The name of this drink from Pepsi is called Driftwell. And I've got their slogan, Driftwell, the insomnia mutilator.
And you have to say it in that, like, really deep voice.
I think they will sell a ton of that. Because apparently there's people are so stressed, they're grinding and cracking their teeth at night.
Wow.
I do that.
I'm not that level.
I don't know if this will help that, but I guess it couldn't hurt. Right?
I have to sleep with a mouth guard, or otherwise I won't have any teeth.
I gotta wonder, you think it's got sugar in it, though?
No, it said it, well, at least not as much as soda.
Well, not as much as soda, yeah, but any kind of sugar, like right. I could see people. It's like, let me brush my teeth first, and then pound a Driftwell.
Yeah.
Let's add some caffeine.
I haven't drank soda in 2 weeks.
Oh wow, are you getting the caffeine headaches? Are you doing coffee and stuff though?
I'm doing. I have a coffee.
Oh,
in the
okay.
morning.
So you've replaced your addiction.
Yeah, but I'm drinking either seltzer water or milk.
Yeah, when I cut way back on soda, I have to do caffeine or tea, or I get the headaches, and it's just real bad.
30 days. You only have to suffer for about 30 days.
I could not make it. I might be able to over like Christmas or Thanksgiving, but otherwise, it's just it ain't happening.
That's because I gave up caffeine. I went through that process, and there were so many times I was like, I could just drive to the convenience store and end this right now. And that's one of those reasons where it's like, yeah, I'm never trying heroin or meth. There's no reason. That would not go well. But this next product is now you might think to yourself, God, I love margaritas, right? Who doesn't love margaritas? They're so festive. But you're saying to yourself, I would like a margarita right now, but I'm going to be playing some Call of Duty later too. And I need my 360 no scopes to be fully powered. And margarita is just not going to give me that. I need a liquid that's more of a gamer fuel. What can I do? And the answer is you can go to Red Lobster.
Mountain Dew creates the first cocktail for Red Lobster, the Dew Garita. Here's when you can try the tequila drink.
End of 2020.
Dude, I was hoping they had a picture of it, but they don't.
They don't.
So yeah, it's Mountain Dew and it's tequila.
It sounds terrible.
And the crushed ice, I imagine. I don't know if there's any other ingredients, but wow, sounds exciting. As we know, mixing alcohol and caffeine can result in some real craziness. Remember Four Loko?
Red Lobster's a upscale joint. I can't believe they'd allow that at their establishment.
Now they do pairings. You know, like you get wine, you get a pairing. They have announced the pairing for the Dugarita will be the Cheddar Bay biscuits. Those are good.
They are good.
They should do like a special for like $7.99. You just get unlimited Dugaritas and biscuits.
Oh, that just...
Imagine the next day on the toilet.
Yeah, just...
Oh. Here's the headline. I'm not even going to introduce it because the headline is just so amazing. It's fantastic.
Minneapolis City Council alarmed by surging crime months after voting to defund the police. Minneapolis Police Department crime data shows a rise in assaults, robberies, and homicides.
Who could have expected this?
We also didn't put that money into any other services like mental health, the foster system. We just kept it, and nothing changed. Why?
If only we had known.
We used it to renovate City Hall. We didn't know.
Well, I'm one of the most anti-cop people you ever meet, and I recognize we need something. You can't just erase it.
Well, it's fine to have cops, but why not put some of the money that funds the cops into other social programs? But they don't do that either, so then it's just like a lose-lose situation, which is what happened here.
Yeah.
This is very concerning in the current context.
But you can throw all the social workers you want at assaults, robberies, and homicides. It ain't going to change those things.
Yeah.
People are evil and dark, and there's a horribleness lurking at the bottom of humanity. Actually, it's like the top 26%. And you got to have something that stands in the way of that.
The worst of humanity is literally that richest 1% and also like the bottom.
That's great.
The other 70%, though, you might be able to make a difference in if they get early enough treatment.
And we have real problems with police, overstepping their bounds and, the whole like, you will comply nonsense. It makes me so angry. But the solution is not to get rid of them, because then you get into the whole warlord thing. And that's real bad. Because I don't want to join a gang.
Earlier this year.
It goes Lord of the Flies real quick.
And I don't want to be a gang member. I'm a loner. That terrifies me. That's why I'm so afraid of prison. But if you do want to prepare for the coming lawlessness and darkness, you might want to bulk up and get swole. And there is a brand new tool that has previously been unexplored that will help you build up your protein and get your max reps way up there. It's not proven at all.
Adult health craze for human breast milk poses risks. So I guess some people are starting to get into this because it's so good for babies. But a lot of doctors and nutritional experts point out that, baby's digestive system is way different than an adult's, and so it's going to be processed differently. So
you mean doctors who are trying to keep the sweet breast milk for themselves? Christo, how much per ounce would breast milk have to be worth for you to consider selling yours, assuming you get prego?
And had a baby. The baby needs that, though. Like, are you really having that much excess milk production? I guess you could, this is terrible. I guess you could bottle feed your kid and then not bother breastfeeding and just express the breast milk for sale.
I'm saying, what's your number? How much per ounce?
It'd have to be a lot. It's a pain in the ass to pump, too, at least from what every other person I've ever talked to says.
10 grand.
I don't know if I have a price.
10 grand per ounce.
That might do it.
How many ounces does a
Stored on Level1?
How many ounces does a woman generate a day in breast milk?
I don't know. I know if you don't either pump or have the baby actually feed, that you will express it either way. So you have to deal with it.
Babies eat how much, 2 or 3 times a day, right? At least.
Oh,
their little bellies.
More than that, yeah.
Yeah, I bet you're cranking out 20, 30 ounces at least.
You know what? The internet can tell us how much.
That's good money, Kristen.
Oh, Lord.
In a day.
That's you're almost going into retirement. You know what? 2 pregnancies and you're done. You retire.
The suitability for
You're almost exactly right. Full milk production is typically 25 to 35 ounces per 24 hours.
You want to talk to me about anything to do with breasts, I'm on the money. Let's talk about masks again. I should have put this with the other mask story, but this one's a little bit different. Actually, it's a lot different. This is a kind of mask that I think probably this is the first man to ever consider. And it's the people on the bus were surprisingly upbeat and not upset about this at all.
Man using a snake, quote unquote, as a face covering, seen riding the bus in Greater Manchester. I don't think a snake is going to trap particulate matter.
I don't know.
Read the quote here. At first, I thought he had a really funky mask on. Then he let it crawl around on the handrails. Ew. So like you're saying it's a mask, but then it's like even if we didn't have the pandemic, you're letting it crawl around on public transport handrails and then putting it on your mouth.
You don't realize the bacteria that lives on skin snake actively seeks out and destroys the virus.
But here's the bigger question. Sure, maybe the snake is protecting you from the virus, but who's protecting the snake?
Can it go to... I don't think... They've not tested it to go to reptiles, have they?
That's really horrifying.
So, yeah. Interesting. No one noticed when he got on because they thought it was just, one of those, bandana-style masks.
It's real.
And it started moving around.
Ooh.
I wonder if he bought the snake a ticket. The anti-mask crowd have a lot of excuses as to why they don't want to use masks. I don't think there's a lot of scientific evidence backing up most of them. There might be some of that, it's like you need some stuff going in to build your immunity. Maybe there's a little bit of that, but I don't think it's as crazy as people make out. This one I certainly don't believe in. Now, Krista, I'm not going to pretend to be any kind of authority here, but from what I understand from limited reading, God, the Christian God, would be both omniscient and omnipotent. Is that correct?
Yes.
Knows all, sees all. And I think that's a pretty widely accepted belief, right?
Yes.
Which makes me wonder why this man would say this.
Masks are satanic because they block prayers. The best part of this article is the screen grab they got from YouTube where you can see the happy, cheery Christmas stuff in the background, and then this man is hissing like a snake in the foreground.
He's got a nice headset on, though. That headset is like $800.
I wonder where he got that money.
I mean, that microphone is a really nice microphone.
You think if he was wearing a mask, that microphone would still pick up his voice? Maybe we should get God a headset to go with.
Is he actually spitting on the audience members? Because there's nobody else here with us. We don't even have a camera person.
He is spitting. It's pure venom, too. He's blinding them.
That is going to be cool, though, when in another 100 years or so, when genetic manipulation becomes a thing, and it's like, oh, what genetic mods do you have? It's like, oh, I spit literal venom. Oh, cool. So, in our final story, we want to talk about a Halloween costume, but it seems like Halloween is not going to be a thing this year. Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think you could have a costume party if everybody's mask incorporated a protective mask?
That's too risky, I think.
Certainly you don't want to send the kids out.
No.
Yeah.
Kids can't help but lick doorknobs.
Maybe, in your experience, right? Maybe you got to do Zoom Halloween. I don't know how that works. Like you ring up all the people in your neighborhood and then you force them to send Amazon orders of candy.
I mean, for the parties that I actually enjoyed going to, it was almost always a Halloween party.
How about drone Halloween?
That's an expensive Halloween to have.
You mount a screen onto your drone.
Oh, okay.
And it floats up to the door, and it's like, oh, look at those adorable children. And then you put candy in its basket, and then it drones back.
Seems like they would get entangled because there would just be too many of them.
Yeah, they'd be smashing into each other, and the streets would be littered with screens. And
nice.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun times. Well, anyway, your choice of mask this Halloween, maybe it doesn't matter, but there is a great new option out there.
The Karen mask is being called the scariest Halloween costume of 2020. You gotta scroll past. We've lost it. There we go. It's like, I'm going as Karen for Halloween.
It definitely looks like they took, because that doesn't look female, it looks like they took just an existing mask and put that haircut on it.
The wig, yeah.
But it's great.
It's brilliant.
It needs the, I'm kind of wearing the glasses like the Karens have, but they don't wear them up here. They wear them like here. And then, they go to the grocery store and they hand you the coupons and they're like, actually, that's how they do it.
Now, if you're thinking you got to get your hands on this, some bad news. These are handmade. They're not mass produced yet, and probably not time to spin that up. for Halloween. And they're also going to cost you a couple $100, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some people get really into Halloween, though. They'll probably get that money.
This guy is a mask maker. He's got some other stuff down here. Looks pretty talented. Got to get it on Etsy. There's probably a link in the story if you're crazy enough to want that. Here's some that he has in progress. It really is just a scary mask that he puts the wig on.
Exciting times.
$180. I'm sorry, I was 20 over.
That's definitely not a. I'm going to use that for the Halloween for the next decade mask.
Think it will last?
No.
You got to disinfect it.
Ugh. Put it in a vacuum sealed bag every year. Then it grows that weird mold, like the weird, chalky white mold.
Krista, why don't you give us the Karen goodbye?
I could chop my hair off to get the full impression, but hello, I need to speak to the manager, please. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to shut this stream off. Thank you.